Hello. You're probably wondering, what is Persona? Why should I care about Persona? What is a Persona? Who are you? What is this video? What's going on? Why am I on YouTube? I feel like I am wasting time being sucked into an endless rabbit hole. Well, I can help you with some of that. I'm here today to help you understand Persona, the series, the spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. I will walk you through all of the games in the series, and hopefully you'll leave with a deeper and better understanding. Without too much ado, let's get right underway. Alright, let's start with Revelations Persona, otherwise known as Megami Ibon Roku Persona or Shin Megami Tensei Persona. This is the first game in the mainline series. It was the one that started Persona. Didn't start it all, that was Megami Tensei. This is the first one that started the entire Persona series. It takes inspiration from Shin Megami Tensei, and it has everything you see in other Persona games, from the having characters in your party, from dungeon crawling, devil fusion, demon fusion, make them stronger, all that stuff started here. From there, we're on to Persona 2 Innocent Sin. This game took everything that Persona 1 did and improved upon it, and had a new cast and new story. From there, we have Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. Now, this, unlike what Persona 2 Innocent Sin did from Persona 1, Eternal Punishment is a direct sequel, like chronologically, same story, etc., from Innocent Sin. Then from there, we have Persona 3. Persona 3 took everything that the first three games set, the staples, improved and changed upon it into what we know Persona more as today. It has the high school setting, the social links, the calendar system, the being a normal high school student of the day, and then going into the dungeons to clear them out. And then from there, we have Persona 4. This continued with what Persona 3 was doing, and continued with the strong music change that Persona 3 set, where the first three Persona were really dark in tone and sound design and music. Persona 3 had more of a J-pop and J-hip-hop, and Persona 4 continued with that. As well, it had its own very unique and distinct style, and a new cast. Next, we have the last in the Persona mainline games to this day, which is Persona 5. This took everything that the first five Personas did, improved on it, and tried to make it its own. This game is the most recent, looks the nicest, and has a very good cast. From there, we're moving on to the side games. Now, Persona is known for a lot of things. You know, the characters, the dungeon crawling, the JRPG, the more simplified JRPG, and an easier JRPG than its Shin Megami Tensei counterparts. Many things they're known for. One of the things is the 50 million side games, mobile games, etc. for this series. The first one we're talking about is Persona 3 The Night Before. Now, this was released as a game that was sort of kind of like a trailer for Persona 3. You would play this game while waiting for Persona 3 to come out, and depending on what happened and what you did in the game, you could have some little things inside the game when it came out. From there, we're on to Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight. Now, this game is a rhythm-based game that you would, dance to music in the games to fight shadows. It was released as a duel with another game that I will get to later, but it takes the characters from Persona 3 and the characters from Persona 5. From there, we have Persona 4 Arena. This is a 2D fighting game that was released as a spin-off to Persona 4, where created by Arc System Works. They are known for the BlazBlue fighting games and other 2D fighters like Fighter Z. They're very flashy. It's a very good 2D fighting game and carries on the story of Persona 4. However, this is where we first start noticing the trend that Persona games like to follow, with Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. This is sort of like the Ultimate Edition that you would see minigames do. However, this is more like a reselling of the game with some added benefits. All the other Persona games start doing this, and we will get into that much later. The next spin-off game we have is Persona 4 Dancing All Night. This is what the other two dancing games are based off of. This was first released as a spin-off for Persona 4, where the story continued, except this time, instead of using your persona to fight shadows, you would dance to hurt the shadows. And if you dance better, you get more points and whatnot. It had its own story, and it followed the events of Persona 4. Now we have the other game that was released side by side with Dancing in Moonlight. Now, this caused a big stir when it was released, because each one of these games individually has less content than Persona 4 Dancing All Night, and you have to buy them both to basically get a full game. And if you wanted Persona 4 Dancing All Night, you had to buy them both and also get Persona 4 Dancing All Night in this big bundle. So it was a very expensive game for just being, a spin-off. It caused a lot of stir, and it did not sell too well. Our next game we have is Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers. This is the most recent game created by Atlus in the Persona series, and it comes directly after Persona 5. It's what happens if you take Dynasty Warriors and mix it with the characters from Persona 5. Now we have two more spin-offs on this list. First is Persona Q Shadow of the Labyrinth. This is what happens if you take Etrian Odyssey and put a Persona skin on it. It takes characters from Persona 4 and Persona 3, and you take two paths. You can either follow the characters from Persona 3 or Persona 4. Now, the sequel to Persona Q is Persona Q 2 New Cinema Labyrinth. This game, unlike its predecessor, only has one route, and it focuses solely on the Persona 5 cast. It still takes all of the same sort of gameplay mechanics of the first game, which features dungeon crawling, having a party to go crawl these dungeons, and endless dungeon and RPG elements. Now that is the end of the side games. This is already starting to look a bit cluttered, but stay with me. I'm sure if I explain, we can figure it out together. But it's about to start getting even messier with the advent of these mobile games. The first one is known as Megami Ibon Roku Persona Iku no Tohain. This is a mobile game that essentially just doesn't follow the story, but the same gameplay and everything that about Persona 1 that you can just play on your mobile phone on the go. It's pretty simple and nice. The next one is Persona 2 Sumi Lost Memories. This was similar to the first one, except it follows the sort of premise as Persona Innocent Sin. Same with this next one, which is Persona 2 Batsu Innocent Mask. These are all sort of fulfill the same thing. Now, this is where it's going to get super messy. I mentioned earlier the Persona 3 game that was sort of like a trailer before. However, Persona 3 has a lot of mobile games. The first one we're going to be talking about is Persona 3 M. Persona 3 M is basically just Persona 3, but like a little side story to it that you can play, on your mobile phone. The next one is a little crazier. We have Persona 3 Megami Tensei Chaining Soul. This is Bejeweled, but Persona 3. It's Bejeweled, where you get matches and you hurt shadows, kind of like the Sonic game way back, the Mean Bean Machine, or like Candy Crush. It's just Bejeweled with a Persona skin. Next we have Megami Tensei Q9 Persona 3. This is, from all my knowledge, just a mobile puzzle game based off of Persona 3. I couldn't find any information on it. Moving on, next we have Aegis, the First Mission. This is a very interesting game because it takes place 10 years before Persona 3. And unlike where a lot of these are puzzle, turn-based kind of adventures, this is an action-adventure game that takes place 10 years before Persona 3, like I said. It's very strange. It's a very interesting little thing that's unique compared to a lot of the other ones that's released in the Persona series. Next we have Persona 3 Broken Shadow. This is a breakout game. It's kind of the same deal where, you know, Chaining Soul is Bejeweled, but this time it's Persona 3 Breakout. It's pretty straightforward. Why did we need it? Maybe people just really liked the Persona 3 cast and wanted to, you know, just play Breakout, but this time it's Persona 3. Next, we have Persona 3 Illust Puzzle. This is a nonogram game. And for those who don't know what a nonogram game, like me before researching Persona, it is a game where it kind of gives you hints, and you have to draw a picture based on these hints on what little pieces you get rid of. Another name for it is Picross. I've never heard of it before, you know, before learning about Persona 3 Illust Puzzle, but that's what it is. Now, if you think any of these mobile games were kind of weird, you haven't seen Persona 3 Escape, which is just an escape the room, but it's official and it's Persona 3. Because maybe you want to see your favorite Persona 3 cast trapped in a room and they have to escape it and get out. Moving on rapidly to Persona 3 Social. This is a pretty nice and little interesting thing here. This is a little RPG of Persona 3 where you play as you instead of the protagonist, and you just play as you in that world. It's kind of a nice little thing. Compared to, you know, Persona 3 Bejeweled or Breakout, I would much rather have this because I can play any kind of Bejeweled clone. It doesn't necessarily have to be Persona 3. The next one is Persona Ein Solf. Persona Ein Solf is a free browser RPG that isn't really connected to any specific game. So I will put it up here and put a little bubble around it. Unfortunately, you cannot go find this game now as it is shut down. But it was just a little RPG you can play in your browser for free that's connected to the Persona universe. It's a little, just fun little thing. Now on to something a little more wild. We have Persona 4 The Card Battle. This is a trading card game with a Persona 4 skin. I don't know who was asking for this, or if anyone's actually played it, or even heard of it besides me and a few other Persona enthusiasts, but it exists. The gameplay is similar to just any kind of trading card game you'd find, kind of like Dragon Ball and whatnot, except mixed with a gacha system, like any other Japanese mobile game you'd be playing. Moving on to Persona Mobile Online. This is kind of similar to the Ein Solf in how it's just kind of its own little thing. So I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to put it on its own because it's in the Persona universe, but it's not openly connected to any specific game. It's just this little MMORPG you can play on your phone on the go. Now finally, the last mobile game. This is Persona OA. It was released as its own little standalone thing that you can use while watching the Persona 5 anime, which I will get into rather shortly. It on its own isn't much, but you can go into the Mementos dungeon, which is kind of like the Tartarus of Persona 5, and go out with some people and, you know, get some cool little text and stuff. It's a little app that you can use along with enjoying Persona in another way. Now, when I mentioned Persona 4 Ultimax, this is what I was talking about. We're getting into the enhanced ports. Some of these I'm fine with, some are a little questionable. The first one is Shin Megami Tensei Persona. This is just a enhanced port of the original. The original was released in 1996, so this was their port to the computer, which was the first port Atlas did, and the first port they did for a long time until Catherine, and then much more recently, Persona 4 Golden. They had a new opening song, FMV cutscenes that were completely voice acted and dubbed in North America, and just some other nice quality of life. This trend continues with these next two, which is just Persona 2 Innocent Sin, that I will connect directly to their counterparts. These were both released on the PSP. These both added things to their respective counterparts, new portraits, controls, and overall gameplay systems. Specifically, Eternal Punishment added a new opening cutscene by Madhouse, faster load times, and a fast forward option, which is a godsend in Persona games if you're playing multiple times. Now this is where things get a little complicated. We have Persona 3 FES. Now Persona 3 FES was the enhanced edition of Persona 3 that was released a year later on PS2. You can look at this two ways. Either one, they made the game, got feedback, and released a better version based off of what fans and critics were talking about. Or you can look at this as they repackaged and resold the game with content that should have been in the original for the people who are fans of the game series to get it twice. Unfortunately, they do this a lot. And I like the new content. And I like the good side thought that, hey, maybe, they got feedback and then they released it again. But it does come off as a little greedy. However, playing years later, if you weren't playing when it came out, you should always go for the enhanced version. However, with Persona 3, good luck, because there's 3 different versions of this game. The next one we're talking about is Persona 3 Portable. I don't like Persona 3 Portable for a few specific reasons. One, due to the constraints of the PSP, this is not it's not an enhanced port, like people say, like Megami Tensei's wiki says. They had to take out a lot of Persona 3 to make this work. They took out everything, all the story bits that FES added, and they took out the 3D world navigation, which isn't too bad, especially to fit on the PSP. However, what I don't like is if they just waited for the next console, the PSP Vita, they probably could have fit it all on, because the next one I'm talking about here is Persona 4 Golden, which entirely fit on the PSP Vita and is just an enhanced version of Persona 4. But to go back, Persona 3 FES added like 30 hours of content and improved just a bunch of the base game. The PSP took out a lot of that, and instead they added the ability to change your gender, which is cool, and it affects the story. I like that. But there's no other Persona mainline game that lets you do that since PlayStation 3 Portable. Some of the older ones, maybe. Anyway. It's a strange little deal. If you're looking at it from the perspective of you would have to be at home playing Persona 3 on the PlayStation 2, and now you can do it on the go, and that's cool. But if you're looking at it from the entire game experience, if you want the best experience every time, it makes it difficult because you're either going to have to play all 3 Persona 3s, or you're going to have to choose one and get some things that are not in the others. I kind of wish they had like an all-together version, but who knows what the future holds. Now to go back to Persona 4 Golden, this is the enhanced edition of Persona 4. It was released on PlayStation 2, PSP Vita, and also very recently on Steam. That adds a new dungeon, some characters, and a whole host of content. It follows the trend. It just adds a lot of things that the game didn't have previously. But you can also kind of view it in the same way, that it's just reselling the same game. This one I forgive a bit more on that fact because it fits on the PSP Vita. So you can play it on the go, and it has all the new things. Next, we have the final enhanced remake, not enhanced port, is Persona 5 Royal. Now, I have not played Persona 5 Royal because it came out after I finished Persona 5, and I'm hoping that they port it to PC, which is a little bit of a pipe dream. But this did what Persona 4 Golden did and just added a bunch of things to Persona 5 and enhanced some of the base gameplay things with a bunch of new features like new places to hang out, new people, characters, etc., etc. I guess I'm fine with these existing, but I don't like reselling the same game a year later. That just comes off as greedy to me. I like enhancing ports, and if you're porting an old game and making it better, that more power to you. That's great. I like that a lot. I don't like enhancing the game and releasing it for a full price a year later, or releasing two games side by side, both are smaller than one base game. I'm not a fan of that business model. Moving on, now we're on to the animations. There are a few animated series. First, we have Persona Trinity Soul. This is in the Persona universe, but much like the mobile game or the Einsoft, this is unconnected to any of these specific games. It follows the story of three brothers that can use personas, so I'm going to leave that down there where it is unconnected. Next, we have Persona 4 The Animation. This is an animated series that just follows the same story that Persona 4 does. It's pretty simple. This is where it gets a little complicated as Persona 4 Golden The Animation. See, this follows the same story as Persona 4, but also the same story as Persona 4 Golden, and also the animation. It uses clips from all of them and skips a lot of the main events to focus solely on what Persona 4 Golden added, specifically Marie and Adachi's social links and experiences. So to watch, I guess, to experience Persona 4 in its whole entirety, you need to play the game on Golden, watch the animation, and then watch the Golden animation, which is a lot, and then you have all the other spin-offs. However you want to experience it, I would recommend, since it is an old game, and the easiest way you can experience it now is by either watching the animation or playing Persona 4 Golden, and depending on how much time, I'd recommend playing Persona 4 Golden first, blind, then you can experience the rest of it in whatever order you wish. What I would not do is watch specifically Persona 4 Golden, the animation, because that's going to leave you horribly confused. Now on to the next one, we have Persona 5 Animation, The Daybreakers. This was the same way as the Persona 3 game that was released before it. This was a little animation trailer for Persona 5 that came out before it to get you hyped for the game. Now let's actually move on to the Persona 5 animation. This is just like Persona 4 the animation. It is an animated story telling the story of the game. Next up, we have Persona 3 the animation, which is a bit of a strange one. This is, unlike the other ones, this is a 4-part movie. It came out over a few years in 4 parts called Spring of Birth, Midsummer Night's Dream, Falling Down, and Winter of Rebirth. This is the same deal, kind of like Hollow Atraxia in the Fate series. Now moving on to the next one, we have Persona 4, the animation, The Factor of Hope. Because the animated series for Persona 4 wasn't complicated enough. This is a 90-minute movie taking from all of its predecessors here and telling the story with cut clips from all of them and featuring a 26th episode that was never aired. So I'm not entirely sure when you're supposed to watch this. I guess you'd watch a Persona 4 animation to Golden animation to this movie. It's a little weird. I don't know why they released so much like this, or it's a bit weird. But that is it for the animations and movies. Next we're on to the soundtracks. Now, each game has a soundtrack, and each enhanced port has a new soundtrack. And there are so many soundtracks that there is no way I could talk about them all, nor would I want to. So I'm going to put this down here, and I'm just going to draw to show that it is from all of them in this one big arrow. So with a brief mention to the dramatic CDs, which are essentially CDs that are written and mentioned, like CDs that have characters from the games talk on. Those are kind of cool. If you're interested, you can check those out on the link in the description on the Megami Tensei fandom wiki. Moving on to the mangas. But you can't have a Japanese anime style video game without mangas and animes and drama readings and novels. Anyway, the first manga we have is Megami Ibonroku Persona. It is just a manga that's following the same story as the first Persona game. From there, the next one we have is Persona Sumi do Batsu. This is a story that follows both Persona 2 and Persona 2. The Sumi in Sumi Batsu is actually the kanji for sin, and Batsu is the kanji for punishment. So this is regularly known as Persona Crime and Punishment, or Sin and Punishment. Moving on, next we have Persona 3, the manga. This is just a manga that follows the story of Persona 3. Very nice. Next we have the same deal, but Persona 4. Persona 4, the manga. It just follows the same story as this. You know, if you're not tired of the Persona 4 story from playing in Persona 4, playing it again in Persona 4 Golden, then watching it in Persona 4 the animation, then following it up in Persona 4 the Golden animation, and then following it up in the animated movie Factor of Hope, then you can also read the manga. Moving on, we have Persona 4 the Magician. Now this is a manga. Unlike Persona 4 the manga, this follows the story of Yosuke Hanamura as he moves to Inaba, and it goes up into the point where he unlocks his persona. So if you liked Yosuke and you wanted his character developed more, you can read this manga. It's very nice. Following up, we have the manga Persona X Detective Naoto. Now this is a manga following the story, the original story of Naoto Shirogane from Persona 4, as she is a 17 to 18-year-old detective, and she does what detectives do. Following up this, we have a pretty interesting one, because when I think a 2D fighting game, I don't think this story needs a manga adaptation. But Atlas does. We have Persona 4 Arena, the manga. This is a manga telling the events and story of just Persona 4 Arena. If you wanted the events of Ultimax, here it is. Next we have Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, the manga. This tells the events of Ultimax in the same way, kind of like Persona 4 the Golden animation tells the events of Persona 4 Golden, and you have to have, Persona 4 animation and Golden animation. This is the same sort of deal. From there, we have something that I think is is a little bit crazier. Now, this itself isn't too weird. The weird part is, first, this comes from the first Persona Q game. Now, this labyrinth, this manga, you would be like, this can tell the story of Persona Q Shadow of the Labyrinth. However, they have Persona Q Shadow of the Labyrinth side Persona 3 and Persona 4, which tells the two routes from the game in two different mangas. So I ask, why do we need to have the first manga roundabout if we have these two? And if that's not telling the exact same story, why do we need the two routes as well? Do you think we could push this into one manga and just have more volumes instead of having 3 shorter mangas? It's a strange little thing, but what do I know? I'm not a merchandiser. From there, we're moving on to a more simple, just Persona 5, the manga. This is just a manga retelling of the Persona 5 story. Pretty simple. This next one is Persona 5 Memento's Mission. This is just a little spin-off story of Persona 5 in manga format. Now, if you were like, holy shit, Persona has so many different things I didn't think it had, or I don't think it needs to have. Well, boy, do I have something new for you. It has novels. Persona has so many novels, which is, you could view it as the same way as, World of Warcraft has a lot of world-building novels. Five Nights at Freddy's also has novels. So, these novels start with Megami Ibon Roku Persona Shadow Maze, which is a story in the same sort of world as Persona 1, but it's just a little spin-off original story. Next, we have Persona 2 Innocent Sin novel. This is just a novel that follows the story of Persona 2 Innocent Sin. I gotta snake this all the way down. From there, we have the next one, Persona 3 Shadow Cry. Now, Persona 3 Shadow Cry is a side story of Persona 3. It is just a little story that follows some people from Persona 3, and it's not related to the overarching plot and story of Persona 3. Pretty simple. This next one is Persona 3 Owari no Kakuru. This is a story that is its original story that takes place in the Persona 3 universe. So, it's a little complicated because all of these games fit in the same universe. At least Persona 4 and Persona 3, they share things that would indicate they're in the same universe. You can see Rise in Part 5. She's a character from Part 4. You can see the school from Persona 3 in Persona 4. There's things that indicate that they are connected in the same thing. Now, where that fits, resetting the world and stuff, that is all very confusing. But this is an original story that takes place in the Persona 3 universe, which, however you want to view that, maybe it's just that it takes place before Persona 4 happens. Maybe each game's their own universe or different kind of events. I don't know. That is something that I am not qualified to figure out, as I have not read most of this, or played even most of these. From there, we're on to the next one, which is Persona 3 FPS Alternative Heart. This is just another side story from Persona 3, except this one comes from FES instead of the base Persona 3. From there, we're on to the next one, which is Persona 3 Portable Velvet Blue. I find this rather interesting because Persona 3 is mainly just a PSP port of the base game with a slight change, which is you can change your gender and a few other little things. So I find it interesting that they specifically made this about Persona 3 Portable and not Persona 3 or Persona 3 FES. It's a little strange, but this mainly focuses on the protagonist's relationship with the people in the Velvet Room, which the Velvet Room is just a small little blue room that represents your inner psyche, and you can go talk to them and make your personas there. It's in every Persona game. Next, we have Persona Trinity Soul novel. This is, like the animation, its own kind of thing. It's not connected to any Persona, but it is the novel for this anime. Moving on, next we have Persona 4 Your Affection. This is a novel that kind of tells the same story as Persona 4 with some slight changes, but it's the same sort of deal. However, the next one, this is Persona 4 Kiri no Amnesia. Now this tells an original story. This is kind of like one day you're playing Persona 4. Your character's like, I don't want to go into the dungeon today. I have things to do. So you text him like, yo, I'm not going in the dungeon. And so the three protagonists here, Chie, Yosuke, and Yukiko, go in on their own. And this follows that sort of adventure and focuses on Yosuke Hanamura taking the charge. It's very interesting. The next one is, you're going to recognize this one, but Persona X Detective Naoto. Not only does this have a manga, but it also has a novel. So if you either want to read the same story in 2 different formats, or you prefer novels to manga, or what have you, you have 2 ways to experience it. Or if you really, really like the Persona 4 characters, cast, and universe, you can read them both, along with all the other Persona 4 media. Now you may look at this, you're like, wow, this is really messy. If I were to click to this point in the video without listening or paying attention to any of this, I would have no idea what's going on. I don't understand this at all. Well, you're about to get more confused because now we have Persona live action stage plays. Not live action movies, not live action animation. No. These are stage plays like you would find on Broadway. First we have Persona 3, which is in 4 parts, the 3 sequels. Persona 3, The Weird Masquerade, Ao no Kakusei. This was the first one in the trilogy, which I'll grab all right now. Or the quadrilogy, going from here to here and here to here. These follow the story of Persona 3 Portable specifically, because it cuts its story into 2 parts, the female and the male protagonist. Now this is in 4 parts, which go Ao no Kakusei, Gunho no Meikyu, Soen no Kesho, Pledge of Indigo Beyond the Blue Sky. I could not find a picture of the 4th one. However, this is similar to the Persona 3 animated movie that's broken up into 4 parts, but it's a live action retelling of the Persona 3 Portable. Why does this exist, and why does it have 4 parts? Your guess is as good as mine. I couldn't tell you what possessed anyone to think that they wanted to see a screenplay of it. No offense meant, if you like the screenplays, more power to you. Me, I would rather just play Persona 3. Moving on, now we have Persona 4 Visualize. This is the screenplay live action retelling of the Persona 4 series. And then from there we have its sequel, Persona 4 Visualize the Evolution. It just tells the same story. It's a sequel to the stage play. Now if you thought, man, this person's an idiot, this person's video is an idiot, I would really love a manga of a 2D fighting game. It's everywhere. Arena. I love that story. Well, good for you, because there's also a stage play of Persona 4 The Arena. So luckily for you, if you think that is what you really like, you love the story, and you really want to see it, you can see it live on stage. Well, you can't do that anymore as it's not being performed, but it exists and you might be able to buy the DVD and find it somewhere. But you're like, but wait, I can't do that. I can't watch the stage play live performance on my DVD of Persona 4 Arena, otherwise known as Persona 4 The Ultimate in Mayonaka Arena stage play, without the Ultimax story. I'd be missing out on too much. Well, luckily for you, there was a sequel called Persona 4 The Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold stage play that continues the story of the first one and of Ultimax, so you won't miss a thing. And if you are the same kind of person that likes that, I'm not judging. You can like whatever you want. Maybe you're such a big fan of Persona that you've done all of this and you followed this completely and you could map this out yourself from memory. Then luckily for you, they have a sort of online podcast show called Persona Stalker Club, which is just, I don't have any problem with this one. It's just people talking about Persona online. They dress up as Persona, talk about it. It's pretty cool. I like this. And finally, we've made it all the way down to the final piece of Persona that we have right now, which is Persona 5, the stage play. Now again, I have to ask, you take a look at this, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Did it really need to be this complicated? And I agree. Do we really need a spin-off of a spin-off of a spin-off of a spin-off? Or do we really need Persona 4 the animation, the golden animation, and the movie? And you have to watch all 3. Or do we really need to have 75 mobile games for Persona 3? The answer is yes, of course, because it all fleshes out the Persona universe. This is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. How are we supposed to make this its own thing without fleshing out the universe by making the characters from Persona 4, 5, and 3 dance their heart out against shadows? Or how am I supposed to enjoy Persona if I don't have a manga detailing the events of a 2D fighting game and also have that adapted into a stage play with 2 parts? How am I supposed to enjoy this without that? Well, that sure was a crazy walk through the Persona series. I hope you managed to find something that you didn't know, or maybe you learned a lot and understand the series just a little bit more. Or maybe you learned nothing but hopefully had a laugh or two. But this is my first video I'm making in quite a long time, and probably the most effort I've put into one in my entire life. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you know what you can do. I'm hoping to make more like this soon, so if you found this and this is your first video of mine, hello, welcome. I hope that I didn't put you too much off by my style. And if you want to see more, you can always subscribe and I will try to do more. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I hope you have a wonderful day.